So we got a nice full room here. We got 16 people on here. So we are doing the build mastermind here, and we're going to hear a lot from Mr. Novak today around this, and have you guys ask some questions at the end, just around what's working, what's not working, what does success look like when you're doing this type of business, because it's not just like regular, relationship business. There's things you got to do that's a little bit different if you want to succeed in this realm, and it takes a little bit more work and it takes a little bit more time. So on this, Mike, I mean, just diving into, the online lead gen, I mean, even just like the mindset going into this, like what do you have to, enter this? Where do you have to be mindset wise to be doing this?
Yeah, well, so I think I love online leads, first of all. Like, that's how Rachel and I got our start in real estate. We didn't really have a lot of sphere. We were brand new into real estate. It was January of 2017, and we didn't know like what to do to get a bunch of business. And so we jumped right into pay-per-click leads, which is like when someone Google searches houses for sale in your area, your website pops up, you grab their information. So we just went really hard on it. It became like, kind of a pillar and part of the DNA of our team, really from day one. And it's still a really big part of it as well. I like the scalability of online leads, and I like that you're not just kind of passively sitting back waiting to build your sphere. Like, a lot of agents are just kind of like waiting for sphere business to come along instead of getting out there and creating more business opportunities. Pay-per-click leads start as people you don't know, but ultimately they become your family, your friends, and they refer you a ton of business. Rachel and I have developed some very amazing personal relationships with people that started as total strangers off of Google. So I love it from that perspective. And you can just scale it too. Like, if you're a team, if you're a single agent, you can do $500 a month, you can do $15,000 a month. It's really up to you on how big or how small you want to do online lead generation. We're not talking today just about pay-per-click. We're kind of expanding the scope to just online leads in general. So we'll talk about Zillow, we'll talk about Realtor.com, pay-per-click, Facebook, all these different things. But I just wanted to make sure that we frame this about, hey, when should you think about maybe doing some online leads? And the time to do it, in my opinion, is if your sphere business is not where you want it to be, and you want to do 50 deals and you're getting 25 from sphere. That's a good time to add on another lead source and possibly evaluate doing online leads. If you're going to do that, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to have in place in your business. And that's what Jim and I are going to really break down for you guys today. But as far as the mindset goes, it's a different ballgame, guys. Like, you're not cold calling people, but you're calling people repetitively, and you're trying to build relationships and trust with total strangers. So it's not like you're talking to your friends that already trust you. These people are skeptical of you. There's zero trust out of the gates. And so you have to build that from the ground level up. But if you have a good skill set, if you commit to mastering those skills over a period of time, it can really be a great revenue generator for your business. So the mindset that I walk into every power hour with is a mindset that people need my help, right? I'm not annoying people. Like, I'm doing them a favor by reaching out to them and giving them expertise that I can do better than anybody else. I believe that firmly. If you don't believe that firmly, get off the webinar right now, because you're not even going to like get started with online leads and do it well. Like, you got to believe in your core that you are better qualified than the next agent to reach out to these people and to guide them and to give them to walk them through the home buying or the home selling process. If you believe that, then your mindset is in a great place. I'll share one of my daily affirmations. And I had this on day one in real estate, and it's still written down on my list. I still read it every single morning. And it's, people need and are waiting for my help. And it's my responsibility to reach out to them and provide the expertise that they need. And you got to fucking believe that. If you don't even get started. Okay.
So
I think it's also to play off that. I just want to kind of add too, everybody, every single one of us, no matter how long we've been doing this, there's always that feeling of trepidation. And especially in the very beginning, it's like you almost get butterflies, right? Like, you're nervous, there's adrenaline running, like you've got butterflies about making a phone call or who's going to pick up or what they're going to say. And so getting yourself centered. So to play off of Mike's affirmations, very, very similar for me. Like, in the beginning of our journey back in real estate, so brand new on the sales side, because we were in the building and administrative side, we would literally spend 10 minutes prior to getting into a call session, literally jumping up and down, chanting our affirmations to each other. Like, people in our office literally thought we were nuts, but it changes your state, right? On my drive into the office, I listen to loud music that I love because it changes my state. It fires me up. It gets me excited. It invokes the same emotion that I'm going to be experiencing anyways, with the adrenaline rush of potentially calling people. And so if I can change my state, then I can then bring that energy and excitement to a phone conversation with somebody who answers. So I just wanted to share that part, that changing your state and bringing the energy is super important.
So what I'm hearing, Mike, so if I'm an agent who's, doing mostly stuff for my sphere, really, I need the same, like, I want to help my sphere. I want to help them. And I'm just pushing that out to the general public. Like, when I first started, doing expired prospecting, I had to do the same thing. When I picked up the phone, I had to think about what I was giving rather than what I was getting. Like, I couldn't think I'm trying to grab this lead, or I'm going to try to grab this buyer. Like, I'm trying to figure out, how can I help this person? And I agree 1,000%. Like, the mindset around helping is going to make you feel, if you don't do that, you're just going to feel dirty. Like, you're just going to feel like a dirty, sleazy person trying to grab stuff, as opposed to somebody who's actually contributing to people and making their life better.
Right. And Robbie, Robbie T is one of the best ISA coaches on the planet. He has a really common saying that I've heard him say dozens of times, and he continues to coach to it. And he says, detach yourself from the outcome of the phone call, right? That means, like, whatever happens, happens, right? You might set an appointment, you might not. But either way, just bring value to that call, connect with the person, and see where it goes. If you do that, everything's going to be good if you do it enough times.
So if we're so I'm like, okay, I get 25 deals a year. I need to hit 50, and I want to go ahead and do this. Like, where do I go? Like, you talked earlier a little bit about lead sources. Like, what should I do as an agent who's just, again, saying, okay, I'm going to venture into this new area?
Yeah, great question. So, for teams like yours and mine, Jim, that have larger budgets, because we have the synergy of, like 7 to 20 agents, all collaborating, which gives, a bigger budget. You can do a lot of stuff. You can do some Zillow, you can do some realtor.com, you can do pay-per-click, and you can have like a mix. But if you're a single agent, I don't know that it's the best idea to like jump into like a Zillow or something like that, because the cost per lead is super expensive. It's north of $500 per lead. So if you don't have a big budget, you're not going to get a lot of traction. Zillow is awesome because it converts really fast. Like, what I call the cash conversion cycle is very much in your favor, meaning when I put in $1 of spend, I get that dollar back plus my return on investment very quickly, like oftentimes in 90 to 180 days with Zillow. On something with pay-per-click, I might not get that return on investment in that cash conversion cycle, 18 months, 24 months. I've got a buyer I just signed last night that's been in our database for 7 years from pay-per-click. So, like, this is a long-term play. And you got to kind of think about what could be the best fit for you. If I'm a single agent, just like Rachel and I did at the time, it was just the two of us, pay-per-click all day long, just because it's inexpensive, and you're going to generate a fair amount of leads, and you can really start to build out your systems on how you're going to do lead conversion. If you're at Real with us, you likely have a Chime website, and Chime runs pay-per-click for people.
What? Don't pull on that, please.
Oh, I'm getting somebody talking. So you could talk to Chime, like have Chime set up pay-per-click for you, send that traffic to your website, and then start to build out your process for actually converting these leads. We'll talk about today on how to organize your database and how to actually convert them. But I would start there and kind of scale up. Like, you can bring pay-per-click all the way from $500 a month to 15,000, and like, you just turn the dial up and more leads are going to come in. But before you do any of that, make sure you've got at least some basic systems down, and you've got a commitment where you're going to reach out to these people. If they just come into your CRM and you do nothing, you're just going to burn through money.
Yeah, because you don't have a relationship at that point. Really, you need to go ahead and build that relationship, have those conversations. Like, what is that? So okay. So let's say we're talking about pay-per-click, because if somebody's diving into that, I agree. That's probably the best route to go, because I've spent a lot of money on a lot of different sources, and I haven't had the same success that you've had on some of this stuff. But on the pay-per-click, like, what do I do? So, okay, I went and I got these leads. Like, how do I convert these? Because I'm just used to calling my friends up and setting appointments with them. These are people that don't know me.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to talk about here, and we're continually readjusting and evaluating what our lead conversion process is. Like sometimes things will work in one market, they won't work in another market. Sometimes you see people not embrace the phone, but really respond to text. So in our current state for our team, what we do is we will place 13 calls within the first 12 days that the lead comes onto the website. Okay. So write that down, 13 calls, first 12 days. If you don't reach them in those 13 calls, then they're probably telling you they're not really that interested. And when I say calls, it's really important that we emphasize that it's not just calls, it's actually a call, text, email. So reaching out to these people on all channels, not just relying on one communication channel to reach them. You'd be surprised how many people will ghost your phone calls, but respond to a text or an email. So make sure when you're reaching out that you're doing all of those things and give it a good, 10 days, 12 days, somewhere in that range where you're getting some decent calls out to that person. Call them in the morning, try them in the afternoon a couple of times as well. We know the best pickup time is from 8 to 10 in the morning, and then again from about 5 to 7 in the evening. So you want to try and hit these people at different times to increase the chances of them actually responding. The other thing that you got to think about is this concept that we call speed to lead. Speed to lead means that I'm calling this person, reaching out as fast as possible. Speed to lead is a very real thing. And the reason it's a real thing is because you're grabbing somebody in the modality of what they're currently doing. So I'm in the modality of looking at houses. So I'm ready to have a conversation about looking at houses. If you call me an hour from now, I'm gone from your website. I've got screaming kids in the back of my car and I don't have time to talk to you, right? So you gotta get after them right away. We try to call leads first 10 seconds after they register, like boom, hit them right away. Wait a minute or two. If they don't pick up, call them again, do that double tap and then call them a third time later that same day. So 3 calls day one, and then you got 9, 10 more calls over the first 12 days. And again,
Double tap? What's that? What do you mean by double tap?
call them, hang up the phone when they don't pick up, call them back 4 or 5 minutes later. So they're going to see 2 missed calls from you, which makes people really curious about who you are. Like they will often pick up on the second call, but not the first, especially if you send them a text in between the first and second call, because now they kind of know who you are.
So you talked about 13
Hey,
times.
Rachel, do you want to share how that worked for you the other day with the call that came in? The call text?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was I don't want to say the victim, but I was the recipient of this exact like format, right? Like one of our affiliate programs, it was a lead generation program. He was trying to get a hold of me. So he called. I'm not going to answer the first one. It's an out of area number, right? I don't recognize it. Immediately text me after the call and said, "Oh, hey Rachel, this is so-and-so from so-and-so. Checking in to see if you'd want to hop on a call to talk about this." And I literally picked up my phone and almost started typing right back because I had my phone in my hand. And then I caught myself like, oh wait, no, I need to wait, right? But the fact that it worked that well on me, somebody who is a lead converter, shows me like on consumers, like they're going to have the urge to respond back, even if it's a no or even if it's a this. I think the other mindset part of this is like people are going to say no, people aren't going to answer. That simply means that they're not ready right now. Like that doesn't mean that they're bad forever. This just means that they are not currently in a buying cycle, nor are they in a season that they want to get serious about it. So I think our mindset's important, but understanding the mindset of the people coming into our system is essential as well. Getting them in the modality is absolutely critical, but also thinking about the fact that when people are Googling something or they're looking up, houses for sale in so-and-so area, it's very possible that that was their first time looking something up, like the first thought that they had. They probably haven't even told their spouse that they're thinking about it. They probably haven't talked to any of their family members that they're considering even making a move. They are so top of funnel, so far out, beyond what the process could possibly be, that all we have to do is continue to stay consistent with the follow-ups as they move closer and closer to their buying cycle. So remember that mentality of that person as well.
That's actually really something you said there. It kind of struck. The most of the people are high S personalities, and conflict is tough for a high S personality. So the easiest way for them to say, "Hey, I don't really want to talk about this right now," is just to never respond to you until they're actually ready to respond. And again, it goes back to like our personal behaviors. I remember I needed life insurance. I knew I needed life insurance. This lady kept calling me. She kept texting me. She kept emailing me. My feeling was like, I'm appreciative she's staying in front of me because I need this, but I'm not going to respond to her because I just don't have time. And then at some point, I bought life insurance from her because she was in front of me when the time came and I was ready to have that conversation. So just sometimes, like Rachel said, sometimes think of our own behaviors and how we respond to stuff, and it'll help us when we're doing the same thing with somebody else.
So here's the thing to do, guys, is, do all that initial reach out that we told you about. If you get no response, then stop calling them. Like, you're just going to eventually get your phone number blocked. But now start looking at site behavior. Get your CRM set up in a way where you can cross compare and cross analyze the last time someone was called and the last time they were on your website looking at properties. If you can do that, now you're going to do what I call behavioral based follow-up. Okay. So that's when people start re-engaging. You haven't talked to them in a while. Create that filter in your CRM, and you're going to find a ton of gold in there. As people start kind of shifting their buying window. A lot of people go through what I call the information collection phase, which is where they're just gathering information about the market, where pricing is at, kind of exploring what homes look like in their areas that they're curious about. And then they move into an actual decision-making phase at some point. The goal for you is to capture them as they transition from that information phase to the decision. If you don't capture them during that time, you're going to miss out on them. So you want to make sure that you've got your CRM set up in a way where it's going to show you what these people are doing when they're doing it, and contrast it to your last reach out so you can then place a really well-timed call. And don't be a creep and be like, hey, Sean, I saw you looked at 123 Main Street 7 times yesterday. That doesn't work. These are just really well-timed calls. It's like, hey, Sean, I know a while back you registered on one of our websites. You're checking out some properties. Haven't been able to reach you. I thought I'd reach back out one more time to see if you've had any thoughts about making a move in the future. And now he's looking at houses. So the conversation's a little different.
And Sean just put something in the chat too, that Chime has an AI bot that will monitor lead behavior. So again, if you're with Real, you have Chime. So that's some great point, Sean. So on this, real estate agents, one of the biggest challenges we have is typically sticking to our schedule. And I don't care if you're brand new or if you've been doing this for 20 years, you probably struggle with it. Like if we're trying to stick to this schedule, like, okay, we're trying to convert these online leads. Like, what does that look like? What does that schedule look like, I guess? And
so
like,
go back to the biggest pickup times, 8 to 10, 5 to 7, right? My suggestion, get into the office early, get on your lead conversion first thing. That's what I do. It's very tempting to get caught up in the distractions of the day. Pending deals that are about to fall apart, active clients that want to go see houses, following up on showings in your listings. You got to be disciplined enough to just kind of bucket that stuff to later in the day. None of those things are actually that urgent. They seem like they're urgent, but they're really not. And I see so many agents, I even catch myself doing this from time to time, where we get caught up doing what I consider administrative type work during these golden hours of reach out. And you have to have the discipline to catch yourself when you're doing this and go back to your prospecting time. If you just prospect for 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week, I promise you, you're going to sell a shitload of houses. Like, one thing you got to do, 90 minutes, that's it. You don't got to do it for 5 or 6 hours, but 90 minutes a day, 4 or 5 days a week, over a period of 2 or 3 years, you will have a massive pipeline, guys. There's just no way you can't.
Yeah, it will. And I even think about, so the timing of this. So we're on East Coast time. So it's 1 o'clock and it's 10 o'clock there. So everybody that gets off this call, like, you get off this and you're going to be like, I don't really feel like it. At 8 in the morning, I usually feel like it, or 9 in the morning. So I always tried to do it before anybody else even showed up to the office. Just get that whole principle of eating the frog, doing the thing that's the most uncomfortable first, and then get into the other stuff. It actually will help you with, like, you start doing calls that are maybe a little bit tougher, people that you don't have a relationship with yet. You're going to find yourself actually making more sphere calls as well, because you've primed the pump and you're moving. And that's what I've always found. I would start my day with expires, and then I would go into all my sphere calls. And I didn't miss it because I made sure I started with that thing that was, I thought was harder, that was tougher to do.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned eating the frog, which is a concept from Fanatical Prospecting. If you guys haven't read Fanatical Prospecting, write that down, read it. Really goes deep on the mindset of what it means to be a really great lead converter. Highly recommend that book. I read it every year just because I think it's that great to listen to. But do that hardest thing first, guys. It's so easy to delay it. And if you just go in there and do it, knock out 90 minutes, then move on to whatever else you got to do. Like for us, we do power hours in the morning. We do internal meetings and trainings right after that. So from like 10:30 till, 12 or so are those types of like one-on-ones, team meetings, more trainings, role plays, things like that. And then the afternoons are there for client appointments. Typically, we don't actually do client appointments in the morning. We do appointments at 2, 4, and 6 p.m. So we reserve those times in the afternoon to honor our power hour. If you don't do that and you start meeting with people at 9 a.m., you're not going to be able to achieve that 90 minutes of consistent follow-up. You're never going to get back into the CRM later that day. You just simply won't. And you don't tell people like, hey, Jim, I don't meet with people in the mornings. You just say, hey, my first appointment is tomorrow at 4 or the day after at 6, which one's best for you? And push them to where your schedule is optimized.
So one thing, as you mentioned that, so if you've got a calendar and say some people color code their calendar, and let's say you're going on a listing appointment and you had that color coded as blue, like, hey, I'm going to go to this. I'm not going to miss this. This is really important. You might want to put blue for your lead generation time as well for those things that are really important. So really putting those in the same category. Because again, we look at it and say, oh, I can always do that later. And we're going to have those days where we're going to have to make that decision. I was always told, if you erase it, you must replace it. So if you have to never delete that, whatever that time is you have on your calendar, you need to take it, you shift it, you move it. Delete is not an option.
I gotta tell you guys, consistent income in this business comes down to daily discipline and execution. It's just literally a mirror of your actions. If you're consistent in your actions, your income will also be consistent. If you're inconsistent, expect to have roller coaster income, which is very typical for real estate agents, where they go really hard for a week and then they do nothing for the next week, because they enjoy the freedom of real estate. Well, this is a job, guys. You got to treat it like a job, or you're not going to get to where you want to go.
Success is really, really boring.
Right. If I told you guys, hey, I can guarantee you're going to make at least a 6-figure income, if not a multiple 6-figure income, if you do this one thing for 90 minutes a day, why would you not do it? Right? It's literally that simple. You can mess up in so many other areas of business, but if you do that one thing, you are virtually guaranteed to make piles of money year after year, month after month.
Even if you're not really good at it. Like you don't even really, like I'm a perfect example. Like I was really, really bad at it. Like it took a lot of years of me doing that and I built a pretty good business, but I was just too stupid to stop. So I just kept doing it. I just kept getting in, making phone calls. I look like an example is I made expired phone calls for like a year with no success. I didn't try to change anything. I didn't fix it. I didn't but I took action. So don't do what I did, but just to understand that is the action is so important. Yes, go ahead and making changes to make sure that it goes smoother and you actually don't have to talk to as many people is better. But taking the action is probably the hardest and easiest thing that you could do.
There's 2 ways to get past anxiety on the phone, and I recommend addressing both of these with your habits. The first way to get past anxiety is to role play a lot. Get really comfortable asking all these questions. That way, when you get somebody that's a total stranger on the phone, you're not even having to think about what to say. It's just like your dunk shot. You're like, hey, I've done this a million times. This is easy. I don't even have to think about what I'm going to say because I've practiced it so many times. Okay, so practice. You got to role play. The second thing is if you delay taking action, that in and of itself breeds uncertainty in your mind. Okay, like if I don't take action every day, I start to really get anxious about if I should be doing this or if I shouldn't be doing it, right? So just the best way is just start making the calls, right? And realize the worst outcome is the person hangs up on you. Guys, it can be a lot worse than that, right? Like that's the worst outcome you get off of a phone call. That's not that bad. And the hang up works both ways. I've hung up on plenty of people. So you can do it on them as well. And it feels great.
So I get a question. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna go ahead and pull, start this tomorrow. Like, how long should I do it? And how do I know if, like, what's success gonna look like if I'm doing this type of lead generation, this kind of spend? How do I know I'm succeeding in this?
That's a really good question. There's a couple things that I think you want to really consider here. The first thing is do not spend $1 unless you're absolutely committed to staying the course on that lead source for a full year. Like I see some people go in, go out, go in, go out of lead sources, and they're not giving that lead source really the full time to maturate into something that's reliable and consistent. Buying a home is a huge financial decision. People don't just do it instantly, right? So you got to give them time to kind of curate and maturate within your database. So first of all, make sure you're committed to the full year. If the lead source truly doesn't net any fruit in that first year, then go ahead and evaluate if you want to start, stop, or scale that lead source and try something else. But give it a full year. And I'm not saying just like leave it on, don't do anything. Give it a full year of consistent activity, just like you did on expireds and cancels, Jim. A full year of activity, and you should see lots of opportunity coming out of it. And look at your leading indicators first, and don't worry so much about the lagging indicators. The lagging indicators are the outcomes. That's the pending sale or the closing. Let's really focus on conversations and appointments set, right? And what I've seen, what I've discovered from talking to thousands of online leads is if you're a decent converter, about 1% of your pay-per-click traffic will convert in the first 90 days into an appointment. Not a sale, but an appointment, okay? And if you're not that good, it's going to be more like 0.5%. The other 1.5%, 2%, meaning we're going to convert a total of 2.5 to 3%, is going to take 6 to 18 months of nurturing, guys. Like I said last night, 7-year lead nurtured to an appointment. It takes time.
Well, I think one of the things that you pointed out earlier about the pay-per-click is it is a less expensive lead source. And if you're doing pay-per-click and you're getting leads through referral sources that charge you referral fees, you will find that you're getting the same leads coming through both. Because you'll find that many of those referral sources that charge you a referral fee are actually doing PPC as well. Like they're really doing the same thing you're doing, but you're paying them like, $4,000 instead of like $25.
Well, let me tell you how Zillow generates leads, guys. It's on pay-per-click, right? They own pay-per-click and they own SEO in every market in the United States. They're the first or second result everywhere in both of those areas. But what Zillow does is they get that pay-per-click lead into their app, and then they really kind of incubate that lead over a period of time. So that 6 to 18 months, Zillow's kind of doing that for you. And then when they actually are ready to go, they request a home tour, and that's when they get deployed to an agent. So some of that is happening behind the scenes in the Zillow app or in a realtor app, but with PPC going directly to your website, you're the person doing it.
So is there anything else around PPC that we didn't talk about, Mike, that you think we should dive in on?
The only other thing I would add, and this gets a little bit complicated, is make sure you have a retargeting strategy for pay-per-click. And when I say retargeting, what that means is like when people come to your website, you're putting stuff back in front of these people, and it could be more listings, it could be videos from you, but make sure you've got a great retargeting strategy in place. This is actually my favorite way to use Facebook ads. We don't use Facebook ads on our team to generate new leads. We use it to remarket to our existing database. So for instance, you could create a market report video, and then you could run it to everyone that's in your database and anyone that's been on your website in the last 6 months. This will soften up your phone calls quite a bit because people are going to get name familiarity to who you are. Okay, they're gonna have to watch some of your videos, and watching your videos, if you can bring some value, is going to really develop some trust and bring down that sales wall a little bit. So make sure you've got some sort of a retargeting strategy. The easiest one that anyone can do: shoot that market report video every month, send it to your database, make it into a Facebook and Instagram ad, and hit it to your retargeting audience. Run it for like $8 a day.
Yeah, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions? I want, this is a pretty big topic, so I want to leave a little bit more time for us to answer any questions anybody has. Or things that they're doing that they're succeeding at in this realm.
I think it's also important to bring up, having a CRM and a database to be able to follow up with people and having the organization with it. I know I'm like touched on it a little bit, but having even text and email templates built out that sound like you will expedite this process. I had coffee with another realtor yesterday, kind of chatting about her business, and she's looking for growth in some particular areas. And she admitted to me that she has not actually sat down and done prospecting time in months. She's just taking the business as it's coming into her and hoping for more. Hope is not a strategy, right? So we had a great conversation about how you are still generating leads, and you're telling me if you don't get a hold of that lead, that Zillow lead or that pay-per-click lead, that she's not spending, her budget isn't huge, but if she doesn't get a hold of them on that first call, she's not even following up. There was not any follow-up. I mean, you might as well take $20 bills and light them on fire. That's literally what you're doing, right? So and she said she's working off an Excel spreadsheet. So we had a great conversation about like, get these people into a CRM, have some sort of tagging system. Obviously we have multiple referrals and resources to provide with that, but call those people, call, text, email. Like they're never going to be right in their buying cycle right then. So having the text templates, having the email templates are also incredibly helpful, so that, you know, when you're calling through, you can literally pull up a text template and say, hey, here's a quick follow-up text, boom, it's done. You don't have to sit there typing it out every single time.
Yeah, because that can get overwhelming if you start building a database over years, and now you're saying, now you're just paralyzed looking at it and saying, oh, there's all this stuff, how do we do it? There's got to be some level of automation in it if you're going to do this at a high level. Like, you want to do those phone calls, but you need to be automatically communicating with these people in between as well.
Is anyone doing lead conversion right now with online leads and really struggling with it? Like, I'd love to talk about that too. If you're not only if you're winning, but if you're also just struggling and you need help on trying to figure out why you're not getting wins with it.
I just asked a great question. Yep. 13 calls in 12 days. Are you sending emails and text with each call for 39 touches, or just mixing in text and emails with each?
Yeah, so we do text and emails on all of them, with the exception of, like I said, that first day we do 3 calls, and we send 2 text messages and 1 email. So, but every day thereafter is all 3. Yep. You'd be really surprised when people respond to email that just ghost your phone calls. It's the strangest thing, but it's very real.
Ron says when he worked on Robert Slack's team, took an average 12 attempts before a connection.
Yeah. And I think the data shows it's north of 20 for a conversion, you know, like there's a big difference between connection and conversion, you know. It really is a long-term play. If you're going to call people once or twice and give up, the game's not for you.
Sometimes it would be months down the road I'd hear back from somebody, and you'd think you were just talking to yourself, because the automated system, after so many attempts, would just pick up, you know, through follow-up boss and keep, you know, sending them things. And sometimes it would literally be months down the road, and they'd reply and be like, hey, can you show me this house you sent me? And I'm like, what did I send you? You know?
Well, so, I mean, listing alerts are really important. Like a lot of people think they're not, but they actually really are, because it allows people to see what's going on, follow the market. And you'd be surprised how many engagements I've gotten off people that I've never heard from, but then request information on a home that we sent them. So one of our action items in our new lead plan is, when the new lead comes in, we review the search, and we tend to broaden it quite a bit. You know, the search is typically set up by our system automatically. So if they're looking for homes in a certain area, they'll set up for that area and the price range they looked at. But I like to expand it out to all the surrounding areas as well. We're in a super low inventory market, so cast a really wide net until you know exactly what the person is looking at, and really open up the price too, because people often search for pricing on what they want to pay, not what they will pay.
That's a good point. I mean, when people are coming in to the system, a lot of times we're doing the same thing. So we're even communicating. So somebody comes in, what do they want? They want a house. They don't want a real estate agent. They don't know that most of the time they don't even know they need a real estate agent. So really, that's essentially the house is the carrot until we actually have a conversation with them about the importance of a real estate agent. So really having that, you know, a lot of times if I see their search, I have somebody I haven't really connected with, I'll see their search, I'll look and I'll grab a house and I'll say, hey, you know, what do you think about this one? You know, just try to start a conversation about a house rather than about me as an agent. And then we can actually start getting through to people.
Sean, you're from car sales. I mean, in car sales, can you imagine not having a car to show people to get them in the door? Like, hey, I just want to talk to you about the concept of buying a car. That's not going to resonate very well, right?
No, well, sometimes you don't even have a car to sell. Like you have low inventory in houses, you had low inventory in cars. And so you just have to try and find out what their wants and needs are and pain points and match them up with something. So there's some similarities there.
Absolutely.
So who else is doing any sort of online lead conversion here?
If you're doing PPC, will you just put a comment in the comment box so we know who is doing this and who is not? I realize like some of you are on teams where your team is doing it for you, which is awesome. But just love to see like where you guys are currently at. And I know a lot of you personally, I know a lot of you do Sphere business, like Ron is totally Sphere, which is awesome. But for those that are doing PPC, I'd love to hear from that. Tara, are you guys doing, I don't know if you can talk or not, but are you guys doing Chime PPC? I know that you guys use that CRM, right?
Yes. So yeah, Lofty Time, same thing. We do that, and I want to say we do Google PPC too. I'm not 100.
So Lofty or Chime, like their PPC is Google or Bing. Bing and Yahoo are the same thing.
But we do website. And,
what's that?
oh, then yeah. Then yeah, I'll do all of those and get those come in, just rotate around.
Todd is doing PPC. Awesome. Sean not doing PPC. Sean, what would make you consider doing PPC? Would it just be having a little more budget for it, or what would make you want to start doing that?
Yeah, I did. When I first came over, I with Real, I turned on realtor.com leads, but it kind of went sideways on me. They just kept sending me like manufactured homes that were on lots, right? That weren't on fee simple land. So thankfully they refunded me most of that money that I was spending a month for them. So that was cool. But I was able to just dig deep and use some of my car strategies. And I converted a guy from one of those manufactured homes to another house, and I got a deal out of it. So it was profitable in the end, but a lot of the leads were just kind of like it came in to Chime, it was turned on, everything was following up, but all the leads were just they were low quality on that. I'm not saying all PPC are low quality, but those particular ones were mostly like, you know, they're shopping for manufactured homes, not real. And I was looking around Silver Lake here, just right up the road. So I didn't know there's so many manufactured homes out there in parks.
When you choose zip codes for Zillow or realtor.com, be very careful you avoid markets that have trailers in them, because you are going to get a ton of requests on those trailers.
Absolutely. I didn't realize how many trailers were in that zip code right up the road here, but there's a shitload of them. And, you know, my budget is only so much. So I just like, okay, I'll do this zip code. And I was, oh my God, I'm getting blown out here.
Marysville has one too. Tulalip has a little bit. And then Bothell has a big trailer park too. So we just try to avoid those like at all costs. When it comes
so I learned that. I paid to learn that. Yep. That was awesome.
How you buy matters for sure.
Yeah.
Realtor.com went through an identity crisis after COVID, where they had like massively oversold inventory because search traffic had gone up, and they had to like right size it all. So we went through a lot of growing pains with them as well.
Right. So now I just do my own searches. I just use I use a service called PropStream. Maybe people have heard of that. And I just run my own searches, and then I skip trace them on there and slam them into the CRM that way.
Nice.
Yes, trailers and vacant homes are very labor intensive.
So labor intensive. I'm over it. I mean, I'll do it if I have to, but that's not really ideal scenario.
That was why I quit using realtor.com. Towards the end, all I was getting was like $5,000 lots.
That's it. I was just getting trailers, and then people, they're like, oh, I want to buy this thing. I'm like, it's in a 55 and up park. How old are you? Like, I'm 34. You're not buying the place. That's not happening.
Yeah, it's the same in Florida. They'll advertise like a mobile home, and it'll say, $60,000. They don't tell you it's $1,100 a month in lot rent.
Right. Right.
Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can live near the water for $60,000. And like,
yeah, no, you can't.
55. No. And that's not the rest of the deal. And we're not licensed to sell those in Florida. So
okay. There you go.
So
You gotta have a car dealer license to sell them, actually. Same license the car dealer guys use.
Right. Yeah.
well, Sean can take his skill set down to Florida and
I'm on my way, brother. Let's go. We'll move some trailer metal.
Well, they pay for selling those in gift cards, and they're usually 50 or $100.
Sweet.
okay.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
So to go back to really the summary of it is if we're not doing this right now, the PPC is probably going to be the cheapest way to dive into this. And if you're going to do it, really having a plan in place where you're actually going to you're going to follow up consistently. I mean, Mike said, what was it? 12 times before a contact, 20 before a conversion. So it's definitely a commitment. We did it once where we didn't have the commitment and we did close some stuff, but it was just a disaster. We just had this pile of garbage essentially. And they were garbage because we weren't communicating with them. So, but if we're communicating with them consistently, they become a relationship. So I think the summary of it is really like, that's probably the cheapest way to start, and probably the best way to do it would be to just, have a plan. Make sure you're going to follow up as consistently as the Novaks are. Anything else before we go?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, you guys have an awesome week.
Bye, guys.